Rama, I think, is still obviously struggling with the hamstring, so we're gonna have to see. We still got what do you got 1 or 2 more days, so we'll see how fit he is come Saturday, more Saturday than Sunday.
And just looking ahead to the match on Sunday, I'll predict that you probably haven't seen much of Richards Bay matches. How do you approach such a game when you don't probably know much about the opposition?
I haven't watched them live. But I've obviously seen a bit of footage on them, and we've had a look, and so we'll try and play accordingly what we think, and looking at our squad. I don't want to go. We don't want to sort of just go play people, give them a chance, but we need to also be clever with our squad.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you as well, Coach. Coach, hypothetically speaking, if the league would end today at this minute, you'll be 8th. And now this competition gives you an opportunity to venture into Africa as well if you do go all the way and win it. So how important is it, considering the situation that you are in, as well as the small squad that you have? Thank you.
It's very important. I think, if you look around the world, a lot of teams around the world, when it comes to cup competitions, they play weekend teams and things like that. But we can't be doing that because of the situation that you've just spoken about. So we'll obviously try our best in every game, try and play the best 11 that we think is suitable for the game, and then go from there. I'm not gonna, there's no sort of freebies, that's for sure.
Coach, you mentioned just now, playing smart with your squad. Can you maybe just give a bit more insight? I mean, this is a game against a second division side. Are you going to be, experimenting with? I know you've shuffled players' positions around. Are you going to be experimenting players in different positions? Perhaps I know you've obviously got Ngezana out suspended as well. And does that pose another selection headache for you? Is Rama back perhaps?
Rama's not back. As I said, I don't know if he'll be fit by Sunday. We'll see by Saturday. We've got Kotso to play coming right back as well. We've got Chabula Blom can play right back. So we've got a few options there. It's not a major, but the boy has done well. And Ngezana's done very well for me. I think he's certainly been close to, being player of the month for us. That's for sure. The last month or so. That's very good. So it's a loss from that perspective. But, we've got players who can come in that position.
Hi, Coach. Coach, with some of the injuries, COVID, and knowing very well that you've used almost everyone. You've tried out everyone, given obviously the small squad and the fact that you had come in and you had to see what everyone can offer. Can you actually afford to reshuffle, given just now you're saying how important this competition is? Can Chiefs afford to reshuffle and take a bit of a risk, as maybe put the foot off the gas a little, because it's a cup game?
Yeah, I don't think whenever you play a player, you don't take a risk. You take a risk obviously if you've got no one else. But I believe in the squad we've got. So if we take someone out and it looks like they've been left out the team, it's not that. We feel that if you look at the last couple of games, what's coming ahead. Not that we got a game next week, midweek, and I would have liked a game. Certainly had a game this week if I could have, but that's the way the program is. But no, if somebody comes in, well, he's got my full back in, and obviously I've got to live and die by those decisions, because if it works, then it's great tactical change or whatever. But I mean, if it doesn't work, then you face the consequences.
Hi, Coach. Just before Saturday, and I think you're right. If you took out the individual errors, the missed penalties, I mean, Chiefs could have won that game. And it was some really encouraging signs. 6 games unbeaten, or 5, 3 wins. Before that, it was 1 win in 9 games. So it definitely a turnaround to some extent, even though I know it's still imperfect. Going into a cup competition, that little bit of confidence growing, you've still got a bit of a squad there. Your youngsters definitely finding a lot more of their feet coming to the fore. What will be good for you here? Do you think if you go to the semis, you'll be happy? Do you think you can challenge for this one? Thanks.
Listen, Mark, the cup draw, the cup is always a draw, isn't it? I mean, I've seen teams get to the final, haven't played anybody. So the draw is the most important for us is to try and get through this round, try and get to the next round, and then go from there. But certainly, over the years, from the mainstay cup days, I'm talking my time, the 80s, you could get a draw, we got to the semi-final in 1981, going play nobody, and then we played Pirates at Pirates, and you know what happened then. So so it's the draw. So let's get through the first round and let's see where we go from there. But certainly, it's going to be tougher this year because there's a lot of what do you call those teams? Vodacom teams or Masepi League teams not in the draw. So because those teams, obviously, everybody wants to draw those teams because not guaranteed, but it's certainly. And sometimes it can also backfire on you. Look what happened to Chiefs, I think, against Barocca a couple of years ago. It was a big upset. So let's get through the first round and take it from there.
Thank you. Angie, I just wanted to ask you the difference between the...
Feed your dog, Mark. Jeez, look.
Yeah, shame, and it's the poor plumber as well who's been bitten.
Okay.
The NFD, let me just sort that out. The NFD and the top flight, what do you think the difference is these days? Bigger? The gap is bigger or not?
I'll tell you what the NFD's got, Mark. I think they play with much more intensity, and the pace of the game is helter-skelter there. So I don't think a lot of the Premier League teams are used to those type of games. And they got all these. And if you look at the average size of an NFD team, they're quite small and nippy, and they move. So if you look, it looks like sometimes they got 15 players in the field, which is difficult to play against. You think, where does he come from? And the pace, the way they play, and the pressing and the intensity is always difficult. And it's like that if you look all around the world. England, the first division teams, they play certainly in a high intensity. So that's something we need to be aware of, and that's certainly the difference in the leagues.
Thank you.
Hi, Coach. Coming back from the derby loss and looking forward to the game on Sunday and the CAF Champions League or in the next weekend. So how has the skipper been responding to a training after he missed that penalty? I'm sure he has been so frustrated with himself, but how has he been responding and also making sure that he works hard on the next two important games that are coming up? Thank you.
Look, you could never, there's nothing much to say except practice and hopefully it doesn't happen again. There's nothing much you can say to any player that misses a penalty. Believe me, better players will miss penalties in the future as well around the world. So it happens in football. So I always say when you take a penalty, sometimes you've got to have the conviction to really take it and want to take it because, those things happen in football. But no, there's nothing been said. We'll obviously try and put it right the next game. We don't have a league game until, I'm not sure, middle of February. So that's a little bit frustrating because we go in different competition the next two games. But it's also, it's good for us, to play in these two competitions.
Coach Rob Delport in Cape Town. You touched on it a bit in Gleason's answer, but you mentioned that you watched a bit of footage of Richards Bay, but what are you actually expecting from them?
Well, I think exactly what I just said about a lot of the teams in the first division, the way they play, a lot of movement, a lot of interchanging of positions, a lot of running off the ball, those type of things, a lot of third man movements. So, if your structure's not right and you don't make your chances count, I think, Chiefs, it's understandable. They'll certainly raise their game. Look what happened to the final 2 years ago. You can put your house on the Chiefs who won that game, but that's what happens in football. So we've got to take our chances and then try and control the tempo of the game. I think controlling the tempo of the game is important when you play these teams.
Thank you. Coach, I just hope this is not annoying because I've had a lot of questions about this from the club's fans, but they just wanted to ask about Itumeleng Khune and how important is he in the dressing room, even though he's not in matchday squads, because, he's played at the World Cup, he's won the league title, he's won cup competitions with Kaizer Chiefs. So how important is he within the dressing room, even though he's not playing an awful lot of games as he would have liked? Thank you.
Well, it's very important knowing that you've got someone of that caliber pushing to get into the team. So he's very important. He's like any other player. He's got to work hard. There's no entitlement to a position in any club anyway. So he's working hard. He's doing well. And when his chance comes again, hopefully he grabs it. That's the only thing I can say on the situation.
Coach, it's only your first season in Kaizer Chiefs. Is it too early, maybe for the fans, to expect you to win this cup? They're hungry for something. They've been a cup in a long time. So are they fair in expecting you to win this cup and knowing what's happening at Natural at the moment? But the club is not allowed to register any players at the moment. Are they being fair in expecting you to win at least this one?
Expectations are high. We need to obviously be challenging. And as I said from the start, let's get through the first round, last 32, and then we can go from there. But to think of the finishing line already, it's always difficult. And but yeah, I feel for them. I'm obviously more determined than anybody than to bring success. But I mean, sometimes, as I said, we need to look at, let's get through the first game and then go from there. Who and how and afterwards we'll worry about. But let's give the opponent the respect and let's try and get through the first round.
Yeah, coach, just the young players that I mentioned, the Bloms, Machekes, Nobos, Mashianis, really finding their feet. I mean, obviously the circumstances have accelerated their getting game time. Can you just talk a bit on their development? Because their getting game time has certainly, you can see the difference from the first half of the season to this part of the season, that they certainly look a lot more assured. And maybe just the second part is, maybe it's unrealistic, but if clubs in this country were to set aside a season for rebuilding, if they've got a generation coming through, I mean, it seems these are their assets who can be grown and sold on to Europe. And I mean, I don't know if that's realistic, but possibly Chiefs' situation this season maybe opens people's eyes a little bit to the potential of doing something like that. Thanks, Coach.
It's quite a long-winded question. I mean, I don't even know where to start. But I think, the saying goes, no youth, no future. So I think, and if you look at the current state of the market, not only in South Africa, and anywhere in the world, the price of players is, is exorbitant, and it's gone certainly way to limits that, exceed the budgets and that. So guys like with Dylan and Arthur Zwane coming in, that's obviously the focus, but that's a long-term project to try and get players to what we're looking for and try and get a system in place where, where you are looking at your youth. And sometimes, like our situation, when you're forced to do it, you discover things that was right in front of you that you never even realized you had. So there's a lot of improvement still to be done in these players, but with young players, there's always improvement. And there's always that rejection line as well. So they can be given a chance, but there's also a rejection line. If they don't do it, well, maybe the next one will come up. So that's a long-term plan for any football club, is to get the youth development right. And maybe it's something that I don't know, but once we get started again and they get going, we can have a proper look at what's underneath the first team, and we go from there. But the focus should always be around that, because, as I said again, to go into the market now, to buy players, compete in the market, it's way out of anybody's budget. So yeah, they've been given a chance, but as I said, there's a lot of work to be done, and they will improve. But now can we get to the next level, and obviously keep pushing the boundaries, because that's what it is with a football player. You push the boundaries and they all get to a level. Everybody gets to a level where, they can't go to the next level. And that's a decision we have to make as we go along.
Okay, last two questions.
Apologies for the long question, but
that's okay.
The first part was just their development this season. You can certainly see a lot of progress.
Yeah, they also come, and I'm to blame as well, because maybe sometimes I'm trying to put square pegs in round holes, trying to make them go do things that they're not good at. But we've also got to look, we got to see, and the only way you can see is by sometimes trial and error, and sometimes the errors are coming in big games, and I look upon myself because I give them the chance, but then you learn. That's how you learn, and I've got to, I'll take that. It's not a problem. But yeah, we need more of this. You're not going to fill a team of a whole youth development. It's never going to happen. And I've come from situations where we've tried to do that, and but there's players there that can, I think, go to the next level, and they will be given a chance.
Coach, just to build on from Mark's question, the MDC is obviously also suspended at the moment due to the COVID thing, which also a bloke in terms of assessing progress. Are you looking perhaps at some of those young players in your training sessions at the moment?
Yes.
And I know the transfer window is still ongoing, the current one, but you obviously only have an eye for the next one. Have you started looking, or scouting potential signings for next season already?
Yeah, that's another discussion altogether. I mean, that's, but I mean, I brought a guy up last week. Well, he's been here 2 weeks. This year, I saw him play once. I said, he's got to come to the first team. I played him yesterday in a little friendly game, and he was outstanding. And he's another one. So hopefully, I'm going to register him, and we might put him in the team for the weekend. But yeah, he's another one that's come through, and so we've got quite a few at the moment.
Any name?
I know his nickname.
Maybe
If he can play half as well as the Bibo that I had at Supersport, who I gave a chance to, he'd be half decent. Yeah.
And scouting for next season, coach?
Well, obviously, like anybody, I've got a list longer than my arm. But I mean, that's all pie in the sky. It's like saying, you want this one, and it's not possible. So realistically, we're obviously looking at targets like any, because obviously we haven't done it for some time now, and that's pretty much basically how it works. But what's attainable and what's not attainable is always a problem. So you've got to be realistic. It's not about saying, it's easy. Anybody can, it's like I say with football, anybody goes to the stadium can say, oh, he's a good player. What about the player who's the right player? That's the most important one. And that's what we need to do.
You mentioned fitting square pegs into round holes. With that, how important is it having someone like Reeve back, who is a bit of a malleable peg, who can play across the pitch?
100%.
And how much has he progressed since the young man that you had at Wits?
Well, Reeve, I mean, I pretty much converted him from a midfield player into a fullback before he came here. So, and then he came here obviously as a fullback. So, but he's a versatile player. He can play high up the pitch. He can play in midfield. He's got a big engine, and even last year they used him on the left side. I remember playing against him. I was quite shocked, but I mean, he did a good job, so it's huge to have a player back like that. And that's why I've always had players. I prefer smaller squads, but more versatility, because it creates, better harmony, whatever. So that's good for the future. Obviously, since I've been back here, he's been injured. He played 1 game, 2 games, and then got injured with a bad knee, and he's been out for 2-3 months. So he hasn't really played much. So, and already, the strain of playing 90 minutes the other days put a bit of strain on it. So we need to be careful with him. So we'll see for the weekend.
Coach, let's go back to Chet's question. At Wits, you used to sign players mostly out of contracts from other teams. You did that with Jose. We did that with Jose brilliantly. Now at Chiefs, do you have a sense that you're going to be given a blank checkbook to buy whoever you want to buy?
No, that's not going to work like that. No, it's not going to work like that. Obviously, everything will be done through the football manager, with cohesion with myself and obviously a few other people, and we'll see. And everything's done, as I said, everything's done with with proper structure and proper signings. There's not going to just be anything, just throw in willy-nilly at this thing now.